creating a test in Excel using the if function. Suppose we had a list of numbers that are class marks for some given students. We want to know who's going to pass and who's going to fail based on the average. When I type in the equal sign and the word I, F, and open the brackets, you can see how there are three variables associated with this if function. Before I go any further with creating that formula, we need to talk about the logical test operators and what they are and what their symbols are. I know you're more than familiar with some of them, like the equal sign, less than, and greater than, but we need to be reminded of the less than or equal to symbol, greater than or equal to symbol, and this is your not equal to, the less than symbol and the greater than symbol together. So when we're creating an if function statement, we need to be aware of those three variables: the logical test itself, the value if true, and the value if false. In the case of our class marks example, perhaps we want the students to have an average that's greater than or equal to 70 in order for them to pass. So the logical test would be, is the average greater than or equal to 70? And if it is, they will pass. If it isn't, in other words it's false, they will fail. Returning back to our class marks example, we can see after I typed in the equal sign and the if function, open bracket, those three variables. So if we want our student to be able to pass, that average, and I clicked on the first student's average and it brought up F2, has to be greater than or equal to 70. Notice now, according to the syntax, I need to put in a comma to separate the logical test from the first value, which will be true. We don't need to put the square brackets around value if true, but because we want to have pass as the text answer to this formula, we have to put double quotation marks around the text string. You could put whatever characters you want in the middle of this text string, in the middle of these double quotation marks. It could be uppercase, lowercase, mixed case, but if you want to have text, you have to have double quotation marks around it. I put in a comma to separate the value if true from the value if false. You might remember if that student doesn't get an average of greater than or equal to 70, that student will fail. We need to complete the syntax with a closing brackets. And once we do that, the variable list disappears and we can see those brackets there right around the three variables. I press enter, and we could have figured this out in our head, but indeed this student is going to fail because the average is not greater than or equal to 70. If I double click on the bottom right hand corner here for autofill, it's actually going to fill all the way from this point to the last row that's got some data in it. I can certainly just single click and drag down, but if I double click, it's going to repeat and copy that formula all the way down. So here are the students that have passed. And of course those students have a mark of their average greater than or equal to 70. Suppose though I truly want to have three different types of standing, where I have honors, pass, and fail. Honors representing 85 to 100, pass is 70 to 84, and fail is 0 to 69. I will need to have two tests. So we're first going to need to test to see if the average is greater than or equal to 70. And if it's not, we're going to have a fail. If it is greater than or equal to 70 as the average, we're going to test further. And so this side here is going to be my true side, and over here is going to be my false. little bit off here, but you get the picture. So is the average greater than or equal to 85? Yes, it is. The student gets honors. If not, the student will pass. So pass is yes, average is greater than or equal to 70, but not greater than or equal to 85. We start this again with an equal sign. IF, open bracket. Logical test, we're still using average. Greater than, equal to 70, comma, value if true. Now remember, we were having another test at this point for the true side of the first test. So we do another if, open bracket, still using average, greater than, equal to 85, comma. If the average is greater than or equal to 70, as well as greater than or equal to 85, the student will be awarded honors. Notice the double quotation marks around this text string. Comma, average is greater than or equal to 70, but not greater than or equal to 85, the student at least is going to pass. Close the brackets. Notice the brackets around this last test and its value if true and value if false. When I do a comma here, this is actually the separator between the first logical test and true, and now we're into the false of that first test. Remember, if the student did not get an average greater than or equal to 70, they're going to fail. Close the brackets. When I press enter, we still have our first student failing, but now let's see if we have anybody who's going to have honors. And we have no honors here because none of the students got 85. So why don't we help some of them along here? We'll say phys ed should have been 100, and now we have honors for Bob. As a review, when we go back to our logical test, it's smart to do a flow chart when you're combining more than one logical test inside of another. It's called a nested if in some books. But just remember, if you need to test more than once, every time you're testing, you're putting in another if statement. And your basic if statement is logical test, true side on the right arm, false side on the left arm, and what do you want as the value if true? What do you want if the value is false? I need to tell you that if you wanted to have numbers as the answer instead of text, and so in here, if the person got greater than or equal to 85 as the average, we could put in 100. Notice no double quotation marks. Let's just say 70 for our pass people, and dare I say 0 for our people who unfortunately need to try again. You can see how I don't have double quotation marks around the numbers because they're not text strings. And then I'll just simply double click to fill it all the way down.